Joe Torre to let him know I was coming in to pitch. He said, no, go home, take much time you need with your father. I said, no, I'll see you tonight. I'm coming in to pitch. Then I had to call my mom, which the conversation didn't go as well because she made me feel guilty because I wasn't coming home to be with my father for the open heart surgery the following day. So I had to end up hanging up on my mom, and I remember driving to the ballpark that day. It just felt like there was this cloud over my head, and I just kept reminiscing when I was a kid, all the different drills me and my father was doing, all the different things he was telling about pitching. And then next thing you know, like the first 3 innings of that game, I was standing in the tunnel that takes you from the clubhouse to the dugout, wondering if I made the right decision or not. And not until the 6th inning is when I realized I had the no-hitter going. I happened to look at the scoreboard to see what hitters Seattle had coming up next. And you see no runs, no hits, no errors. Obviously, the heart started beating a little faster. The anxiety started coming in a little bit. And from the 6th inning on, I was able to put my dad's situation aside and concentrate on pitching. And I remember, as you just mentioned, the last out was Paul Sorrento. As I recall, the score was 2-0. They had 2 guys on in the ninth. I threw Sorrento probably the worst pitch all game, which was a hanging curveball, basically sitting on the tee. He popped it up to Derek Jeter. I remember Derek Jeter going back forward. It's like the ball was never coming down, and Wade Boggs was over the way, which wasn't very good on catching pop-ups. So I was praying that Jeter called for it, which he did. And when Jeter finally caught the ball, everything you can imagine was going through my mind. Hoping that my dad was going to be okay. Will I see him again? I'm bike pitching in New York. Had been suspended the year before. Prior to that start, early in the season, I started out 0-3, one that I was going to get released, where I was going to sit down. Everything you could possibly imagine was going through my head. And I remember flying home the next morning to give my dad the ball to the hospital. He had the surgery, and the doctor said he saw the game. After the game, he had a tear in his eye. Unfortunately, he'll never make it home. He ended up passing away, but the last game he saw me pitch was a no-hitter, and that made it that much special.
Wow. Dwight, tell him what happened when you walked into the hospital. Who's the first person you saw?
Hello? Say it again. I'm sorry.
Tell the people, when you walked into the hospital, who was the first person you saw?
Walking up to the hospital?
Inside the hospital.
You guys. I'm sorry. Hello?
When you walked into the hospital, who was the first person you saw?
Oh, walking to the hospital, George Steinbrenner. And that was a night a day I'll never forget. I remember going to the hospital, actually, once I got home, and George came up, and I remember talking to you, Ray, and you say you saw George. He was coming to the ballpark, to the complex down in Tampa for a meeting, and he said, how's Doc? How's Doc's dad? And he said, he's at the hospital. And he had you go in and tell those guys in the meeting, he'll be right back. So he never went into the meeting. He actually came to the hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital in Tampa, Florida, to see my father. And to this day, I would take this to my grave. I'm sure by Mr. Steinbrenner being there to spend the time with my dad, he gave my dad an extra 3-4 days of his life just by being there, because my dad felt that much. You know, he felt a lot. But George Steinbrenner, a lot of respect for George, even when we did the contract. And by George being there, spending time with my father in the room meant a lot. And that's something I'll never forget.
Well, the fans are excited. I know we have Diva Nation. I mean, they're the best thing since Diana Ross and the Supremes. And they're going to be performing on Sunday, and they're going to do one song just for you, Dwight.
Wow. I'm getting excited now. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Yeah. And anytime I get to talk about the Yankees and my time there, obviously with the Mets was great, but the time I had with the Yankees was very special. I always cherish that. And still to today, you get choked up just thinking about it. It was great memories, and if I wasn't there to witness it and live it, I wouldn't believe it.
That's right. Now, Dwight, I got to ask you, I mean, this is like almost like the first time. It is almost like what Mike Tyson did on Broadway, per se. I mean, and he did it at small venues like this before he did Broadway. How do you feel about the fact that you're doing this the same way like he did?
I'm very excited. Mike Tyson, a good friend of mine, and I saw him when he came to Westbury, and I like what he did. I'm looking forward to it because I'll be there, and we'll be reminiscing, talking baseball, talking about great memories, talking about some tough times, and just reliving what I went through and where I'm at today. I'm very excited about that and to share with the fans. And there'll be a lot of stuff that I'm sure we talk about that they hadn't heard before.
Right. So, Dwight, talk about your relationship with Ray Negron over the years. It seems like you guys become
don't get me in trouble.
And even in your time in Cleveland, it seemed like Ray was right with you, and you were right with him. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, Ray was there through the whole thing, and I was going to say something to tell Ray how I really feel about him and how much I really appreciate what he did for me, which I always done. But I'll share a little bit with it that and when I say this, I mean it's from the bottom of my heart. I mean I'm getting teary-eyed now thinking about it. Well, actually, I know I've mentioned Ray before, but a lot of times with Ray's always been good with helping people. But when you tell Ray what he's done for somebody and how many lives he's touched, and it's like it just goes over his head. I don't think he really understands the impact he's had on lives. And I only say that because I know the impact he had on my life. In 1995, when I was suspended from baseball, he basically saved my life. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart because had I not met Ray, I don't know if I'll be here having this conversation with you guys because a mutual friend of ours, Bob Clappage, I had talked to Bob about going to Japan because I was still in denial about my disease of drugs and alcohol. I still want to play baseball and try to get my life right. And he said, I know a guy, Ray Negron, who probably get you to Japan. And not knowing that me and Ray was actually neighbors over those years. We had crossed paths different times, but not knowing he only lived maybe 3 miles from where I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida at the time. And so I met Ray, we started talking, and Ray said to me, if you get in shape and get yourself together, I'll get you a contact for Japan, which I'm sure all the time alone, we had, in Ray's mind, we had no intention to get me to Japan. He just wanted to see me save my life and get back on track. And by him saying that, that gave me an incentive because at that time, even though I had kids, I was married, I had my mom, still living at the time, and my dad was still at the time, I really had no desire to get my life back on track. I still was stuck so deeply in my disease that partying was the first and most important thing that was on my mind until Ray said that. So we started day by day, working out, going to meetings. We met around Doc. And our daily thing became, we go work out, I come back, I shower, I pick the kids up from school, we go have lunch, and we go to a meeting. So days turned into weeks turned into months, and the next thing you know, we had scouts coming out. But and Ray, I mean that when I say it, had you not come in my life at that time, I honestly believe, when I reminisce and look back on things, the way things were, I don't think I would be here today. So really to express what that really meant to me and what you've meant to me, not only that year, 95, but throughout my life. You've always been there, even though many times, I had the relapses and different things happen in my life, but you've always been there. So thank you.
Thank you, Dwight.
Well, I mean, those are...
Hold on, let me get a towel for my tears, man. Dwight, I appreciate that. But hey, Dwight,
yes.
The first time that I went to see you, Dwight Gooden used to own the whole block. He had brought his mother a house, his sister a house, his cousin a house, his friend a house. The only one he didn't buy a house for was me. But and let me add, he actually helped pay for my house. Believe it or not, later on. That's the heart that Dwight Gooden has. And let me say this: the first time I went to visit Dwight Gooden, like I said, he owned the whole house, and at that time, somebody was threatening to kidnap his sister. So the whole block was armed with guns, and we didn't know this. Right? And when we drove into the block, next thing you know, there are 5 guns on my head. And please let me go. Please let me get out of here. I don't want to see Dwight Gooden. Dwight, did that happen or not?
It was a crazy time. That was crazy because what happened was my nephew, Gary Schiffel, was dating this girl in Miami, and the girl was, married to a drug dealer who was in prison at the time, and when the guy got out, he started threatening her and Chef, and then the girl put threats on my sister, which was Chef's mom. So we had the whole block locked down. I mean, we had security everywhere.
And they put a
the
gun
thing
in
was,
my
all the
mouth.
security guys was guys that we grew up with.
That's
the
not
security
right,
guys. They weren't
Dwight.
real law enforcement guys.
So
I mean, incredible.
It's terrible. We're going to step aside from baseball for a minute because you brought up this drug addiction that you brought up. What advice would you give young people
but you're right.
out there?
That's the first time we met.
Okay, there you go. Dwight, what advice would you give young people out there that are struggling with drug addiction or families that are going through it right now?
I think the main thing is getting with somebody that you're real comfortable with, and basically just sharing your soul. And if you really want to get right, it's just about being honest with yourself and taking a day at a time. Because I remember at one time I couldn't get a day clean, and I never thought I could do it until I started believing myself and getting honest with myself and having somebody to trust that you could talk to about anything and not worry about them judging you. I think once you get honest with yourself and you really want to get better and get help and making the changes in your life, because you had to change everything. Because I remember for a while, I only wanted to change certain things, and certain things I wanted to hold on to. But the things I wanted to hold on to were the things that kept, keeping me sick. And the secrets and all that. And Ray would tell you, I remember we spent nights and nights in his house, in his pool. He had a game room with a pool table, nights and nights, and Ray used to pace up and down. And I probably took 3 or 4 years off Ray's life at that time. And just talking and talking. And then sometimes before you got it right, next thing you know, something would trigger me, and instead of me picking up the phone to call Ray, my sponsor, I would try to battle it myself, and next thing you know, this is the perfect 3 days, and it's the same story. It kept repeating the same thing until you get sick and tired of basically living that way. And there comes a time where you have to get honest with yourself, and it's a battle. I hate this effing disease. I really hate it because it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter your background. Doesn't matter your color, your race. I mean, it attacks not only you, but it destroys families. Because at one time, I thought I was entitled. I wasn't hurting anybody, but you're hurting everybody. You're hurting yourself because you're not trying to get better. I was trying to do it myself, and I think once I found out and dig deep on the things that kept pushing me out, I think part of it was because playing baseball and as a pitcher, if I knew my curveball wasn't working that day, if it was down in the dirt, I knew how to make adjustments to get it over the plate. If my fastball was going up and away to a right-handed batter, I knew how to make adjustments to get it down and throw strikes. So I felt this was something I could handle on my own, but you can't handle on your own. The disease of drugs and alcohol, I found out from time and time, over 20-some years of battling this disease, I couldn't do it on my own. And so I found that honest with myself and basically started telling myself and not worrying about how somebody's going to, see me, how they're going to approach me, or what they're going to think about me, and just be honest with myself. That's when things started getting better for me, and started getting comfortable in my own skin again. And it took a lot of work, and every day is work. Some days are better than others. So it just matters that knowing if I'm not feeling right that day, I have someone I can talk to.
Well, Dwight, before we let you go, I don't want to get into too much stuff. I want to save it for Sunday, but I'm going to share one story, just one story, and you probably forgot about this. We remember George Steinbrenner sent you and I to Puerto Rico, and we took
yes.
your sponsor Ron Doc with us. And you guys, I'm in Puerto Rico with 2 drug addicts. Okay.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden one night they had this thing going where we're gonna mess with Ray. We're going to mess with him. He's been messing with us the whole time. It's our time to get him. So what happens, I walk into the room, and they got this look in their face. And I said, what's wrong, guys? Next thing you know, they grab me by the collar. They throw me on the bed. They handcuff me. Okay? And then all of a sudden, Dwight Gooden says, now I'm going to have sex with you. And next thing you know, I'm screaming and crying, thinking these 2 junkies are going to sexually abuse me.
I remember that. Ron Doc got an erection for real. I said, no, Ron was just kidding. Ron was kidding.
No more, Dwight. Don't give them any more. They got to come to the show on Sunday.
All right. And we will ask baseball questions that day.
I remember that.
All right. Dwight, God bless you, man. We can't wait to see you Sunday on Long Island at Governor at the brokerage for Bad Boy.
I look forward to you guys as well, man. It's always good talking with you guys. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to have some fun. All bets are off Sunday.
All right.
Yes, let's do it. Yeah, it'll be a great time for sure.
All right.
No doubt.
Dwight Doc Gooden. Thank you very much, sir. All right, we're going to keep this sports thing going. We have a round table discussion. Go ahead.
Before we do, we got to let Diva Nation go because she's sick.
Yes.
And
we're going to switch up. Yep, we're going to switch up. Gil, everybody come on in.
We will see you on Sunday.
Yes.
All right?
Yes. All right.
Diva Nation!
to shake it off. Another night to make it on.